In this second video for the pools and pavilions, we're going to complete the first rectangular pool with its pool deck and organize the layers that we'll need to integrate that into the site in some effective way. So the next step in this, we've created the solid extrusion with its filleted corners, which is the pool volume itself. This will be the interior volume of the pool. We're going to now create a surface that will become the deck of the pool around it, and we'll use curve editing tools in order to get the profile that we want in plan for that pool deck contour. The first thing we need is to extract a curve from this solid. So we're going to go back to the project curves flyout, and we're going to use the duplicate face border tool, and we're going to select this surface and hit enter. And what we've done now is created, you can see it there in yellow, a curve that is the corner, the top corner of the pool. We're now going to take that and offset it. In this case, I'll just type offset. And we're going to give it a distance. And in this case, we'll start with a distance of 10 feet. You can see it there. I can change the distance if I want to, but we'll go with 10 feet for now. We don't need to worry about anything else here, but you should look at some of the other options that you might have. And we're going to just project that curve 10 feet out all the way around. This is going to be useful for creating the pool deck surface, but I want to modify this before we do anything else with it. And so there's an important way to modify geometry, curve geometry in Rhino, and that is to turn on the control points and to adjust the control points of a curve. So if we click on this curve and look over here, you'll see edit points and control points. So we'll turn the edit points on, and what you'll see that happens is that a series of points is created, or actually they are the points that allow you to edit this curve. And we're going to take those points and move them. The first thing we're going to do, though, is give ourselves some reference geometry. So I'm actually going to draw a line segment, not a polyline, from the midpoint on this edge, perpendicular to it, another 10 feet out. So I'll type 10, return. I'll hold down shipping, so I'll just click again, and I've now created a reference line, and I'm going to use the control points that I turned on for this pool edge curve. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to use a window command, and I'll select them all in the top view. You see they've all turned yellow here. And now what I'm going to do is simply grab the one at the midpoint here, the end point of the line I just created, and I'm going to move it linearly to the end of that line. It will automatically snap there as long as your O snaps are set for the end point to be something that is sticky and that it will connect to. And what I've essentially done, if you look in the top view, is I've pulled the periphery of the pool deck to the right along the x-axis by another 10 feet. And now I can take away this 10-foot reference line. And I've done this because we want a little more room at the deep end of the pool to be building some slides and other fun things, diving boards and whatnot. And this is a way to illustrate for you the flexibility of curves in Rhino using the control points. If you take any single control point, and we can do this in plan, and start to move it, you'll see that you can get some unexpected results. Now, if you wanted the edge of your pool deck to have that shape, you could use that control point edit to do so. I'm going to undo that. Often it's useful to move or to adjust these as groups. And so you'll see what happens if I select a group of these. If you select the correct group, you can actually edit and move this. So you could make a much wider deck to one side or the other in a more controlled fashion by selecting a group of control points, holding shift for ortho, and moving them where you want. So now that we've finished that, we can hit escape to get rid of those control points. We don't need them on anymore. And we will now construct a surface using the curve that we extracted from the top of the pool and this new curve that we offset from that. And with these two curves, we can now create a new surface using planar curves. And if we click on that, we get a new surface which represents the pool deck. Now what we're going to do is do a little bit of disassembly and reassembly. We're going to take the solid of the pool itself and we're going to explode it into its constituent surfaces. And we're now going to delete the very top surface. And what we have looks like the surface of the pool, the inside surface. Now it's a series of surfaces because we've exploded it. And the pool deck. We're now going to take those and we're going to actually put them back together. Notice that I also still have the curve that was the cross-section of the pool represented there. I might actually go ahead and delete that first. Now I'm going to take all of the surfaces that are here with a window. And I'm going to now use the join command on the left to put them back together, not as a solid, but as what is called a polysurface. So this is a series of surfaces made into one logical unit. And I'm going to take this from a series of infinitely flat surfaces and make them back into a solid of a thickness of 8 inches, which is a good thickness for a concrete, let's say, that you would use for the construction of a pool and a pool deck. And I'm going to do that using a solid command to essentially thicken this polysurface, this set of surfaces, and give them actual thickness. So selecting that polysurface, I'm going to go to the solid tools again. We're going to use the offset surface command with this polysurface that we've created in order to create a solid from this. So we're going to use the offset from the solid pull down, and we've selected the polysurface, and notice the direction of the arrows. They are pointing down and out. And this is perfect because we want the geometry that we use, the cross-section and the width, are intended to be the interior dimension of the pool. And so we're going to take all of this and thicken it using the offset surface command. We can give it a distance. And I've already input the 8-inch distance, but we'll put that in again. So 8, you have to say 8 inches because if you just say 8, it will assume 8 feet. We can flip the direction, so it could actually, it could go upwards, which is not what we want, and inwards, or downward and outward. And so now everything is set. We hit return. And what we've created now is a single geometric entity that is 8 inches thick throughout. It offsets the radii, thickens everything, so it's as if we've now made a nice casting of this, 8 inches thick everywhere, that has the inside geometry that we want from the deep end to the shallow end, and it has a thickness of 8 inches also for the pool deck, all as one continuous entity. We also still have some other geometry like the curve at the edge of the pool, which we will keep in this case. We'll use that later. Once we have the pool itself created on its own layer, we are now going to copy some geometry, specifically the surface that we created into which this is going to be set. We're going to take this from the layer upon which we created it, and we're going to copy it to the trim ground layer. So we're going to say Control C and Control V, and so now we have 2 copies of this. And we're going to go back to the object properties and change the layer of one of these to trim ground. So now we can go back to layers and turn off topo surface. So now in our pool rectangle layer, under the trim ground sublayer, we have a version of the ground that we can insert this pool into, and we can trim the ground without actually losing the data that we have from the original surface. It will always be here on its own layer if in case we want to do this differently in the future. I'm also going to take the 1 foot contours, and I'll turn off I can't turn off the current layer. I can make that the current layer, and I can turn off the current layer. And I can take all of these contours as well, and I can copy them, Control-C, Control-V. And while they are still selected, go to their properties and move them to the Trim Contours layer, and go back to Layers, turn on the Pool Rectangle layer, make that current, turn off the 1 foot contour layer. And so everything now is off except the Pool Rectangle layer, where I have the new pool, we have a piece of ground we can set it into, and some contours to describe where it is in there. And if I make something else the current layer, I can turn all of that off. And now I can proceed to make other versions of the pool, which is exactly what we're going to do in the upcoming tutorial. So stay tuned.